Hello guys, so tonight's super fun project is changing a tie rod. So these are the tie rods. This is the factory one, this is the new one, OEM obviously. Don't mess with aftermarket stuff. This will leave you stranded, so get the good stuff. So you can see how it's real thick back here, and then it tapers down to this, and then it tapers down again. It's designed to bend right there, which is why it bent right there. And it bent in such a way where I was able to make it home, and it protected the rest of the suspension system. So good job, Yamaha. These tie rods are not as puny as like the Pioneer 1000, but they will bend if you smoke a Palmetto going pretty quick. Now you got to check everything else. Make sure that piece right there is straight. That's an important thing to check on here. Make sure your tabs look good. Make sure your caps are bent, top and bottom. Look for any welds that have paint chipped off of them, things like that. Make sure everything's good to go, because if it was a good enough whack to bend a tie rod, it could have hurt something else. Now the question will be asked, if you didn't have that spacer, would you have bent the tie rod? Hard to say. Probably not. I mean, that adds good amount of leverage on the tie rod. So no one can say for sure, but maybe it'd been better off. So to remove the tie rod, first thing I do is take the wheel off. You got to bust this joint right here. There's your tie rod in down there. There's a cotter pin on the bottom. Then you just hammer. You can see where I hit. Hammer right here. Bust the ball joint. Then you must remove the nut off the shaft. That's the big nut right there. Then you must remove the boot. So there's a little clamp on the top end. It looks like this. I'm going to replace this with a hose clamp because I mangled it getting it off. It's not worth reusing, but it's like a CV boot clamp. And then there's a reusable spring type one somewhere right there. That little guy is also on the shaft. And then you just pull your boot off of it. I lubed this thing up with WD-40 so the boot would slide nicely over it, and I didn't have to replace the boot. Didn't even damage it, so I can reuse that boot, which is great. And then to get it off the rack, I used this big crescent wrench. I unbolted the bottom part of this piece of plastic so I could have access to get the crescent wrench up from the bottom and bust it loose from the rack. Pretty straightforward. One question you may have when you get yours from Yamaha is, what does this little thingy do? Well, if you pay attention when you take it apart, it's like a locking feature. So it slides on there like so, and it presses on there. That fits in the little grooves on the rack and keeps it from spinning. So it's like a locking feature. So I just got to put it back together in the reverse order and then get it aligned and try to guess at the alignment. Yay. They are the same part number left and right. So I'm just going to adjust it to where it looks similar to this guy, and based on how it bent, I know that's about where it was because it bent right at the end of the nut. So hopefully that'll get me close enough, but you can see where it started to bend. So that'll get it close enough, and then I can set the weight of the machine on it, get out the old tape measure, and adjust it. Because this end did not get adjusted, I can also just drive it around and tweak it until it goes straight with the steering wheel straight, and that'll also tell me it's pretty damn close. It was off a little bit. I did try to adjust it to make up for the bend, but when something bends, it gets shorter between here and here. And it did affect the handling. So make sure your alignment's good, especially on a precise racing machine like this one. It really does matter.